The Republic stopped being recognizable before Order 66 ever happened, not because of one moment, but incrementally while everyone was watching the battlefront. The Clone Wars finale gave us the Siege of Mandalore. It's one of the best things Star Wars has ever made, but it also gave the Republic a clean ending it never actually earned. But in Legends, the final year of the Clone Wars is a completely different story, and it's a lot darker. By year 3, the Republic wasn't fighting to survive, it was fighting to stay in control, and those are not the same thing. The Outer Rim sieges are grinding forward. Obi-Wan at Boz Pity, Anakin across a dozen worlds whose names the Senate barely registers, and meanwhile General Grievous has turned Operation Dirge's Lance into something the Republic's high command didn't see coming. 2 Confederate fleets pushing inward simultaneously, targeting core worlds that were supposed to be safe. The Foros shipyards were under pressure. The supply lines the Republic's war machine depended on were being squeezed from multiple directions. The core is panicking, and panicking institutions making calls in real time, the Senate, the Jedi Council, Republic intelligence, none of them slow down long enough to examine what they're actually doing. And member worlds that had been loyal start asking a question nobody has a clean answer for. Can the Republic actually protect us? This is the year the Republic stopped being recognizable, not because of one moment or one decision, but incrementally, while everyone was watching the front. The Senate Bureau of Intelligence was one of those institutions, the Republic's largest civilian spy network, separate from anything the Grand Army controlled, reporting not to generals but to a Senate oversight committee. And then there was Republic Intelligence, the military arm embedded directly inside the Grand Army, handling field operations and espionage at the front, 2 agencies separate by design. During year 3, Armand Dessard was running both. Think about that for a second. The whole point of having 2 separate agencies was so one couldn't swallow the other. The Senate committee exists to watch the military, but if Dessard's running the military and he's the committee's only source of information, he decides what they see. He decides what they know. There is no check. There's no balance. There's just Dessard. And Dessard got to work. He traced a freighter to a small mid-rim world called Orlean. His agents believed it housed separatist bioweapons facilities. He didn't wait for confirmation, he deployed stone mites, a bioengineered weapon the Republic had repurposed from separatist scientist Jenna Zan Arbor, the kind of insect that devours a planet's ability to sustain itself. But Orlean had no bioweapons facilities. It had 800 million people with nowhere to go, and a surface they could never return to. And Dessard, this same man, had gone on the record denouncing the original stone mite incident as a separatist act of terror. He wasn't wrong about what they were, he just didn't think that description applied when the Republic was holding the weapon. General Grievous doesn't have Dessard's restraint problem. Operation Dirge's Lance opens with 2 Confederate fleets driving into the core simultaneously, from Yagdul and Thyfera. Grievous reaches Duro, and the defending Republic fleet is gone inside a week. Orbital bombardments, then a massive droid army deployed to the surface, Duro falls, a core world taken. And then the full scope of what Grievous is doing becomes clear. He's operating across 26 strategic Republic worlds simultaneously, commanding from the invisible hand. Not raids, but a coordinated campaign designed to break something the Republic couldn't rebuild, the belief that the core worlds are safe. At Humberine, one of the founding worlds of the Republic, Grievous orders a full hour-long orbital bombardment. He's not going for heavy casualties or infrastructure damage. His goal is depopulation. And when he's done, one of the oldest inhabited worlds in galactic history has its crust melted. At Lodorvia, he deploys the Brain Rot Plague, a biological weapon, not against a military installation, but against the human population of an entire sector, and most of them die. At Vandos and Nadim, civilians and soldiers are massacred together on his direct order. The version of Grievous most people know is a recurring villain with a cough. He loses, retreats, and returns. In canon, that works. In Legends, Grievous is not a dramatic obstacle. He's a war criminal by every legal and moral standard the Republic publicly claimed to uphold. And nobody holds him accountable, because the Republic doesn't have the bandwidth, because it has already started making the same kinds of decisions about its own citizens. Which is exactly the environment Palpatine needs. Running underneath all of it, quiet, methodical, and visible against the noise of the war, is the actual project, not the Clone Wars, the transition. Rendili is a core world and a major shipbuilder. When it defects to the Separatists in 19 BBY, it brings its entire home defense fleet with it, Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, suddenly pointed at the Republic. The Senate's response? Send Jedi Masters Saesee Tiin and Plo Koon with standing orders. If Rendili doesn't comply, destroy the Dreadnoughts. Anakin handles the Dreadnoughts by disabling the fleet, resolving the crisis. And before the smoke clears, Palpatine issues an emergency legislative order. Every planetary defense fleet in the galaxy, every independent military asset maintained by any world, core, or outer rim, be absorbed into the Republic Military Command, under his authority. And just like that, every independent military capability in the galaxy passes to the Chancellor. No planet can defend itself without Coruscant's permission. No world can arm itself without Palpatine's sign-off. The Republic has just eliminated every distributed check on central power, not by conquest, but by legislation, passed during a crisis that proved exactly why centralization was necessary. Palpatine didn't manufacture the Rendili crisis. He didn't have to. He was patient enough to wait, patient enough to let the war generate the right emergency, and move the instant it arrived. Rendili handed him the galaxy. Not one senator stopped to ask whether the crisis justified the price. And through all of this, the Jedi Council is trying to hold the Order together under conditions it was never built to handle. They're generals now, intelligence assets, political liaisons, running 7 active war theaters simultaneously, managing diplomatic crises, commanding clone armies, attending Senate briefings. The institution that spent 1,000 years as a contemplative body measuring alignment with the Force has been converted into something closer to a military high command, and it is consuming them from the inside. Sora Bulk is a Jedi Master, one of a handful of beings in recorded history capable of wielding Vapad, the most dangerous lightsaber form in existence, a combat style that channels the user's own darkness and turns it into power. To wield it without falling is a constant act of deliberate will. Bulk was one of the Order's finest. He defects to Dooku, not a gradual slide, a complete defection. He becomes one of Dooku's dark acolytes, training Separatist Force users, fighting for the Confederacy, and the Council doesn't catch it until it's already done. A Jedi Master with intimate knowledge of the Order's structure, its operatives, its methods, on Dooku's payroll. And running parallel to that is Quinlan Vos. The Council deploys Vos as their best deep cover operative into Dooku's network, knowing that to earn genuine Separatist trust, Vos will have to do things that look like real defection. They know what they're asking, but they send him anyway, because they need intelligence more than they can afford to keep their conscience clean. Vos goes in. He works the triple cross, appearing to be Dooku's asset while feeding intelligence back through his Jedi contact, Colleen Hintz. It works, and the Council gets what it needs. But the accounting stops there, because what the Council doesn't track is what it costs Vos to survive that long in the dark. By the time it's over, Vos is done. He plans to walk out of the Order entirely. Colleen is pregnant with his child, and the mission didn't turn him toward the dark side. It turned him towards something the Jedi Order has no framework for at all, a life outside it. They sent their best undercover operative so deep that the mission rearranged his entire relationship to the institution. They got the intelligence, but they lost the Jedi, yet they count it as a success. Meanwhile, the FASH system doesn't just see rogue Force sensitives go dark. Their own Jedi Praxium falls, not outsiders infiltrating the Order from the fringe, not a single master who got in over his head. The Praxium itself, Jedi, training under the Order's banner, breaks. The Council's response was to dispatch Yoda, who chased a single fleeing Dark Jedi across the galaxy to a swamp world at the edge of the Outer Rim called Dagobah. But he couldn't purge what the uprising left behind, and the Council filed it away, returning to the war. Here's what Legends understood that Canon never quite grasped. Institutional collapse doesn't look like a single catastrophic moment. It looks like a sequence of decisions that each made sense in context, and by the time anyone steps back far enough to see the whole picture, the picture is already wrong. They didn't become the Empire when Palpatine said the words. They became the Empire while they were fighting the Clone Wars. The Republic wasn't corrupted at the end. This is what it looked like in the middle. Is there a version of this Republic worth defending? Drop it below, and may the dark side be with you.